I am Sister Ann Victory. I'm a sister of the Humility of Mary. My community was founded in France in 1854. And then because of the oppression in France, the entire community of 11 sisters and 4 orphans responded to a request from the Bishop of the United States in 1864 to move to the Diocese of Cleveland, Ohio, mainly to minister to French immigrants in this region. From our founding, the Sisters of the Humility of Mary served in quite a variety of ministries because they were responding to the needs of the times and the needs of their neighbors. So the early sisters were teachers of women and girls because that was not being done in France or United States. They were lace makers. They were sacristans in local churches. They were musicians. When arriving in America, they had to quickly learn new skills of farming, making bricks to build and repair buildings, and building relationships with the local residents, and nursing them during the smallpox epidemic. So they required new skills and gained them. They also became entrepreneurs because they needed money. They had none. And so they worked with the railroad workers in the area who could harvest timber off the land for their railroad ties. And in exchange, the sisters nursed their injuries and founded the first hospital in the region on the Mother House grounds. So sharing in Jesus' mission to bring more abundant life to God's people, our mission, especially the poor and the marginalized, we trust that God will provide all we need to fulfill that mission, whatever the times are. My community has certainly engaged in the so-called traditional ministries of education and healthcare, and also in pastoral care, social service, housing, and addressing social justice concerns over the decades. And we, along with 6 other religious communities in the region, learned about the issue of human trafficking in 2007. We saw it as a horrific human rights issue. We had no idea what that would mean, but we realized that we must respond. We learned about the complexity of the crime, and we knew right away that we needed to do this work together and enlist the help of many more to work with us. So because of that, the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking was founded in the Cleveland, Ohio area with a mission to educate, advocate, and connect services and resources on behalf of trafficked persons. The sisters who gathered from these communities and our lay colleagues who made up the Collaborative's steering committee at the time, before we became a nonprofit organization with a board of directors, came from the fields of education, healthcare, law, administration, and counseling. We realized that we could not provide the direct services ourselves that the survivors of the crime would need. But we all had contacts with members of these professions. So we focused on raising awareness, on advocating for more effective laws and their enforcement, and building relationships with those who could provide the direct services. We also realized that teaching people about the issue was a priority. Unless someone knows it, they can't do anything about human trafficking. Our educational programs include a description of the issue, how big it is, who is vulnerable, what red flags to look for, and what the participants in the audience can do. That empowers them to take some action and not feel just overloaded and depressed by the issue. We did a study early in our work, and it confirmed that many of our professional colleagues were not familiar with the crime either and did not know what to do if they encountered a possible trafficked person. But they were open to learning. They also saw the value of working together to provide the needed services, each bringing their expertise to the table for the sake of the mission of ending the crime of human trafficking. Because of that ongoing effort, the collaborative now works with over 75 agencies and organizations in the greater Cleveland, Ohio region. Efforts to increase awareness, advocate for victim and survivor needs, build a safety net, and focus on law enforcement eliminating the crime continue to occur, and they are done with an emphasis on trauma-sensitive and trauma and survivor-informed services. Because I was in this work, I was invited in 2013 to a meeting in Washington, D.C. of the sisters across the United States who are working to end human trafficking. We attended President Obama's meeting of faith-based and community partners at that time, and we explored together the scope of services being provided among us. We discussed how we might be able to work together for the sake of trafficked persons even more effectively. The outcome of that initial gathering was the formation of U.S. Catholic Sisters Against Human Trafficking. Now this organization is known as the Alliance to End Human Trafficking. This organization became a nonprofit in 2016. We discovered expertise, energy, and a strong desire to work together to weave a bigger safety net on behalf of trafficked persons. Like the collaborative, the Alliance continues to grow as a membership organization with over 200 congregations of religious coalitions and individuals who want to share in the work. We keep learning of the connections between human trafficking and other primary issues, such as migration, climate change, violence, poverty, and in some cases, cultural oppression. We know that the crime is often hidden, is global and very local, and is extremely lucrative for the traffickers. Although human trafficking by itself is not a religious issue per se, but rather a human rights issue of all faiths and no faith in the image of God. And all have a right to human dignity and to work that is dignified. Many people do pray for victims and survivors, and also for a change of heart on the part of the perpetrators, the criminals. Is this work challenging and sometimes discouraging? Yes, of course it is. Is that a reason to give up? Not at all. Every person who becomes aware, every effort to reach out, every new connection with others who share a passion for ending human trafficking makes a profound difference. Just knowing that so many others across the world have dedicated their lives, energy, and resources to ending the crime is encouraging and certainly blesses those who feel the most forgotten, those who are being trafficked. Both the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking and the Alliance rely on and are grateful for the grant and donation funding they receive for the majority of their work. Very few government funds in our country are available. The eventual outcomes of this important work are healthier individuals who receive needed trauma-informed services to heal from their experiences. As a result, families and communities are healthier as well. Survivors are more sure that they can contribute to society. They can raise their families. They can be employed in dignified work. Both organizations, the Collaborative and the Alliance, also benefit from the powerhouse of prayer support we receive from those who pray daily for the strength of both survivors and caregivers and leaders addressing this crime that Pope Francis has described as a scourge on the face of this earth. So many thanks to all across the globe who are engaged in this very important work. And thank you for inviting me to speak with you.
Oh, thank you very much, Sister Chrissy. And actually, after those three excellent statements, in the meantime, allow me to ask three questions to the three sisters, or at least to the two sisters who are with us online now. First, could you briefly describe your main strengths in your work against human trafficking? Second, what is the connection with your faith? Third, could you share one or two best practices? So, Sister Anne Victoria, I see that you are live here. So, thank you very much for being with us, and I give you the floor.
Strength would be that I've learned how to collaborate. And when we named ourselves that, it was quite a challenge then to have to live into the title of collaborative. We heard the word a lot, but we didn't necessarily know what it would mean for us. And we've come to know that it is about bringing our best gifts to the table, whatever they may be, and to share them for the sake of the mission. So it's all about building the relationships and making sure that we respect the gifts that others bring and learn from them. And then together work for what is best for those who are being afflicted and oppressed by the crime of human trafficking. There's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement in being able to do this, and there are a lot of challenges to doing it, because we've learned that some people come to the table just because they don't want to miss out on anything. That doesn't mean they necessarily want to share their gifts. So it's a pattern of growing. It takes patience. It involves living with the messiness sometimes and continuing to focus on those relationships that are key to the victims. I would say that's one of the biggest learnings I've had, and it's come to be one of the ways that I have been able to be a part of this. I've also learned that it takes a different style of leadership than the command and control kind that we usually think of. It takes a facilitating style. And I believe that's sort of a natural gift for me. So it's important for me to learn how to share it in these circumstances and to bring my best to the table from my own profession, which is as a nurse, but also from what I have been learning from all others who are participating with me over these years. So that would be my answer to the first question. Okay, well, you asked also about the impact on my faith and how my faith feeds into my ability to do this work. I have found that I need to be very much grounded in prayer daily and throughout the day in order to continually focus on this is God's work. It is not mine. I can't do it alone. I must rely on God to do it with me and to guide me along the way. So that's always a focus of mine on a very daily, but also sometimes minute to minute focus, and to ask others to pray for me and to pray for us who do this work. So that's one of the ways that my faith does contribute. It's certainly been the way that Jesus does this work. He was always reaching out to those who are vulnerable. And I believe that's what we are called to do, but through the mission of the gospel. In terms of best practices, one of them I would say is learning collaboration, as I mentioned earlier. Another is to keep learning, because this crime doesn't have just one way that it shows itself. And a third would be to regard what survivors can contribute to this work as extremely important. They have lived through the agony of this. They have so much to teach us. It's not what we think they need, it's what they know they need. And I guess a fourth would be to help people make the connections among the various other social issues, and to be empowered to do something themselves. So our presentations often include, what can you do? Whether it's if you just tell your family what you learned, or tell 2 other people, or pray, or learn the red flags and recognize them, or know who to call if you see something that just doesn't seem right. So those are some of the things that I would say would be best practices at this time.
Sister Anne Victory, would you add something in conclusion, so to speak? Because you have a very clear explanation. I like very much the way you present simply complex issues.
Well, thank you. One of the things that Sister Marie was talking about was the importance of engaging with younger people, children.
Yes.
And I would concur with that. I think it's extremely important for them to know the issue as early as they can. And that's sometimes a challenge because parents want to protect them from such kinds of information. But it's really a safety thing. They need to know, and they need to know how to keep themselves safe, but also their friends, and how to stay safe on social media, which is the way much of the human trafficking is taking place in many parts of the world, including the United States. It's a very difficult challenge for us to be addressing here, because children are not afraid of the internet at all. Their parents may be, and their parents don't necessarily know what their children are doing online. So I would add that as a very necessary thing, and one of the things that we want to spend even more time on. Another way that people can help is if they are investors.
Yes.
Find out about the companies with whom they are investing their funds, and then make sure that that company is not supporting human trafficking in any way through their supply chains or through their policies and practices. And just for instance, the social media networks, those providing that kind of service, all those apps that children are very attracted to. We have a listing of those who are doing better because they've been, people have been on their case about it, and those who are still not doing a good job and allowing their practices to get children having access to improper materials. So it's important to know who the companies are, what their practices are, and how they are enforcing those practices, and to be an active person. If you're an investor, to be an active one, and to go to speak to the companies about what you prefer and what you really don't want to see in their products.